Howdy. I'm rather excited and I try to put this together all in one sketchy video. We are looking at copper ore. This greenish yellowish rock is copper ore. This red one on the left, this is the copper ore. This is a small part of the bigger stone. The exact same stone. But it has been in the microwave for several minutes. And it turned red. It started to glow. I think there were a few sparks as well, but it just started to glow, and after it cooled down, it was totally red. Some time ago I have been there in Outokumpu at the old copper mine, which you can see in the background, at least a part of it. I also noticed this. There is rocks with very red color. Like it's very red. This doesn't really shine over on this picture, but it's really, really red. And also like down here. And this is somewhat the lowest point of the whole area there. There are some like this kind of train tracks, and they were like putting stuff out there. And this is somewhat the bedrock of the whole thing. They were mining inside this hill. Outokumpu, kumpu means this kind of hill. But let's check out some few facts first about, because I have been talking about this quite much, and I even wrote about that. So let's just have a quick read. From my paper, Plate Tectonic Issues, the Influence of Electricity in Rock Forming Processes and a Coherent Connection Between Science, Mythology and History of Finland. We have to go down. There is no plate boundaries near here anywhere, you know. Iceland might be the closest. We have a bunch of geological maps. I discovered also these rocks. Not really discovered, but probably I'm the only one who watched them with the right eyes in order to understand somehow to what's going on. Volcanic activity is not so much in Finland, nor do we have geothermal activity. Except there is, in the eastern Finland, there is one area here, which is a little bit elevated, but we have this one and also number two. One is the Koli area, where we have the story of this very mighty witch from ancient times, which was so mighty that he could make the water boiling, which comes from the ground. So we probably have to take this as a real story from the past, because there is still some elevated geothermal potential in the same area. And there is also some very slightly enhanced geothermal potential at the plasma rock site. But we won't talk about geothermal activity nor craters too much here in this video. We have many craters at the plasma rock site. There are a few pictures from the plasma rock site. There is a plasma rock site playlist in my video. We have molten metal on top of the rocks. We have magnetic anomalies. There are many small magnetic anomalies in Finland, but one overshines them all, the Kursk magnetic anomaly. It stretches from Norway through Sweden and Finland down to Russia. There is an obvious C shape visible in the magnetic anomaly map, which resembles a C pinch. It has several not straightly connected positive regions which are named. One of them is the Oku anomaly. Oku is short for Outokumpu. A town in eastern Finland, it has a history as a mining town. It has once been one of Europe's most important copper mines. The old mine is quite likely a fulgurite because of its form. So it comes as no surprise that the name Outokumpu, translated into English, means something like strange hill. It stands out of the surrounding landscapes, and it being a fulgurite or a giant blister much like the Koli area. It is the reason for the mining operations in the first place. No one had to search for it since it's towering the area. So here we have the map. this C-pin shape. Let me change the color, and here we have these blue regions. Blue regions here. Here is like quite some earthquake activity always going on. We have the plasma rock sites with a copper mine. There has been an old monastery there, an old copper mine, and we have Outokumpu, and they are just side by side. And since we are talking about the surface conductivity anomaly, we have to somehow assume that this doesn't have any volcanic origins nor plate tectonical origins, because how could it do such a thing like that? I think it has to be something electrical in nature. And I've been talking about those kimberlite pipes where you find diamonds. Diamonds need very much heat and pressure in order to form, which can be provided by electromagnetic discharges all over the world. I have been talking about the auroras touching the ground. We have stories in Finland from people getting killed by auroras if they were talking too loud. The Aborigines from Australia, they associate Aurora Australis to a river of fire in the sky, death and destruction. Probably the ancestors saw the aurora touching the ground. So, if you have something like this going on, you probably could find more than just diamonds and copper. Let's just read a little bit from that. The old mine is nowadays a museum, but the mining operations in the area are continuing and probably even expanding. At this moment, 2021, the mining operations are mainly focused on talc. In the Vuonoskaivos 55 is the reference when you want to check it out, which is owned by Mondo Minerals, one of the world's biggest producers of talc, and is not owned by Finns. Finland produces 4% of the world's talc for industrial use. In recent times arose new plans for starting a new mining operation in Outokumpu, but there are environmental worries slowing down the process. There has been a uranium mining operation around 40 kilometers from Joensuu, the plasma rock site, in the vicinity of Eno at a place called Paukkajavaara. Vaara means also hill. Kumpu and Vaara, they are somewhat similar. Maybe Kumpu is a smaller hill. Kumpu is smaller than Vaara, but basically they are hills. Those both words mean the same thing. Maybe there are some slight differences, but it doesn't matter too much because they're talking about hills anyway. It is not easy to find accurate maps of possible uranium abundances, which is understandable. Because of the inaccuracy of the map, it is not sure if the plasma rock site is in the area or not. The aeromagnetic map could provide some clues about the furious past of the landscape. So the plasma rocks are here. And if we go over to this map, the plasma rocks are somewhere here. But there is nothing else marked, so it's rather hard to somehow distinguish where it goes and how accurate these measurements are anyway. If you're watching at this violet, we have uranium and thorium, according to the Finnish Geological Survey. The aeromagnetic map here, we have the plasma rocks. So let's say copper, because there is a copper mine. We have Oku, there is a copper mine C. Paukaja, we have uranium. And Goli, we have geothermal potential, GT. GTP. So, let's go back to this map. Some time ago, I noticed that this shape resembles the cusp magnetic connection or reconnection of our magnetosphere. The polar cusp, can we zoom in into that? Not really. This doesn't really work. The polar cusp is up there. And if we go to through the slides, there are many very nice pictures. I really have to dive into them once. Maybe now it would be a good time since I'm still very excited. There would be so much stuff to talk about and show and whatsoever, but the cusp reconnection does look like this. And I once made this picture. The one on the right is the picture we just saw. The one on the left we have been looking at now several times. And I still claim this has very big influences on local weather. But we won't dive into that now. Maybe it's just me who sees the correlates between those two pictures, but I really think there is something similar to that. And if you combine the ancient stories about how the aurora borealis or australis were touching the ground, killing people, and there was a river fire in the sky and stuff like that, I think it is possible that this region slammed once down on Earth and it left this imprint in Scandinavia, for example, which is the perfect mirror image of the polar cusps up there. So the question is, why? How could it do so? And all this kind of other stuff. So we know Earth's magnetic field is weakening, like less solar activity can have much bigger influences on Earth, and we have the solar cycle and magnetic pole shift going on. We also know that Earth is tilting over every now and then, the Johnny Beckhoff effect, the tennis racket effect. But also that the poles are moving, the magnetic poles and the geographical poles. So they are all in movement. And it could also be that during some very violent times, there could be like several of these kind of cusp things going out here. Some are smaller and some are bigger, and then it goes back to this one where we have the Bertrand current going through Earth. But in violent times, this could be, it's all moving instantaneously. If you ever watched some plasma videos, or watch a lightning strike, it's rather alive. It's not static. So we have to assume that these can change places and change in numbers as well. And I think there is something with copper and sulfur. I knew since a while that if you process copper, there is like sulfur emissions. Okay? Usually sulfur is related to volcanic activity. And this whole topic was boggling my mind for a while. Because if you look at this rock here, it is yellow, greenish. Yeah, that's not the best, like it's much more yellow on the side and stuff. It depends on the oxidation, But it's also red after microwaving it. So now I showed you in Outokumpu, like the bedrock is really red. So it must have been heated. And there was sulfur, otherwise it couldn't turn red. And if you go to Wikipedia and read about sulfur, yes, it is yellow. Yellow. But going down, physical properties. Sulfur forms several polyatomic molecules. The best known allotrope is octosulfur, cyclo-S8. The point group of cyclo-S8 is D4D and its dipole moment is 0D. Octosulfur is a soft, bright yellow solid that is odorless, but impure samples have an odor similar to that of matches. It melts at 115 degrees, boils at 444, and sublimes more or less between 20 and 50 degrees. Now this is the interesting part. As a solid, sulfur is a characteristic lemon yellow. When burned, which has a blue flame, sulfur melts into blood red liquid and emits a blue flame. So obviously, you don't need a flame to do that. You can put it in the microwave and get the same result, or somewhat the same result. So now we have the polar cusps, we have the surface conductivity anomaly in Finland, which influences local weather. We have copper mines all over the place. We have the plasma rocks with molten metal on top of them. We have those very deep red bedrocks at the copper mine in Outokumpu. The name copper derives from Cyprus, the island in the Mediterranean. There has been so much copper, that's why copper got the name. It's derived from the word Cyprus. So I assume that there is also sulfur there in Cyprus. And Cyprus, as I have shown you, it's not too far from places like Jerusalem and other places like this, where religions were made. And they're talking about brimstone raining from the sky. Brimstone is sulfur. How so? Let me show you or share with you this quick video from Electric Universe Eyes. He has much better English than I do, and he's talking about the Great Comet by David Talbot. Let's listen quickly.
This is Electric Universe Eyes, and today I'm going to narrate The Great Comet Venus by David Talbot, 1997, section titled The Great Comet. In seeking out the general patterns of the Mesoamerican Venus as serpent dragon, we cannot fail to observe that our listed cometary symbols are not just present, but prominent, that they are enigmatically but self-evidently connected, that they do not direct us to any present forms either in the sky or in the natural world today. Rather, they all contradict all natural forms at every level, and that they remain unexplained despite decades of microscopic examination by the best experts. One conclusion is inescapable, even if interpretations will differ. The Mesoamerican symbolism of the planet Venus in the planet's guise as a serpent dragon or chaos monster is a compendium of globally recognized comet symbols, representing in one mythical form all 5 of the most frequently employed cometary glyphs. Yet in more than 40 years since Velikovsky's Worlds in Collision, no mainstream scholar has even acknowledged this stunning fact. Of course, no comet admitted by modern science has ever justified the lines of Shakespeare cited above, or the Aztec image of a comet-like weapon in the form of a fiery dragon. But our appreciation for the symbolism changes dramatically once we entertain a new possibility that in earlier times, mankind experienced a far more spectacular and devastating comet than ever experienced in more recent times. A cometary archetype that could fully account for the later symbols. It was said of the great fire serpent, Huicuatl, that it spewed forth comets. That is exactly the language we should expect if Huicuatl was not just a comet, but the parent of comets. The concrete source of a mythical archetype, from which arose the entire reservoir of comet images, every cometary apparition, taking its symbolism from the cosmic original, would then be considered a child of the primeval, flaming serpent or dragon remembered in the myths.
So now, we have Venus. And going over to coppersmith, copper in history. Copper is believed to have originated from Cyprus, where Romans used to mine it from their rich copper mines. Its name copper originated from the Latin word cuprum in ancient alchemy and mythology. Copper was associated with protection of the goddess Venus and Aphrodite. This was mainly due to its radiant beauty and origin from the island of Cyprus, which was considered sacred. History on usage of copper is best understood when studied under the 3 stages of its use throughout the human life, namely Copper Age, Bronze Age, and Antiquity and Middle Ages. So it started off with copper. Is there any possibility that the copper and the sulfur came from Venus? That's why the whole thing started with the Copper Age. Pen today. New analysis shows how sulfur clouds can form in Venus's atmosphere. An international research team, including atmospheric chemists from the School of Arts and Sciences, used computational chemistry methods to identify a novel pathway for how sulfur particles can arise high in the atmosphere of the second planet from the Sun. Yeah. As the dragon flew by Earth, it sparked and it probably left an imprint on Earth. Probably many. One in Cyprus and one in Scandinavia, where we have now sulfur and copper. An electrical discharge. So maybe some of the copper, or maybe all of the copper on Earth is from Venus, and from the interaction between Earth and Venus. So, I have to dive deeper into that, but I think that's a nice theory, despite I just figured this out today and I've been really excited. Didn't know really where to start, but now I said it. Let's see how it goes on from here. Thanks. Bye.